Hello, my name is Mrs. Harper and I have the privilege of being the Director of Science across Windsor Academy Trust. As a trust, we pride ourselves in our strong partnerships with yourselves and deeply value your support to ensure your child reaches their full potential. Indeed, research states that parental engagement in supporting their child's academic learning can add an additional 4 months of progress per academic year. Hence, the purpose of this video is to guide you through a new resource produced by the Trust Science team to support your child's science progress. So without further ado, we're going to have a look at those resources now for the next couple of minutes. So this is the resource which has been linked onto your child's Google Classroom, but it's also embedded in the email this video is attached to. So the resource starts with the general information on the left-hand side. And this gives you all the basic information about the science course. So we start over on the left-hand side, identifying the absolute bare minimum of resources required to take into a science exam. It is really quite important students are adequately equipped for these exams. So identify the scientific calculator, several working pens, eraser, pencils, and a ruler as a minimum. There are other optional items in there as well, which might help your child in their exam. But these are the minimum basic requirements for all science exams. Below that is the specification, which is the guide that your teacher uses to know what to teach you. So you may well choose that. However, there are much easier options for you to access. But if you do want to, you can see that there. Below that, there is a data equation sheet. Now, in this particular academic year, in 2024, students will be provided with a full equation sheet, which means they do not have to memorise any of the physics equations. So this is a copy of what the sheet will look like in their exam. So that's for Physics Papers 1 and Physics Papers 2. Please note that these particular equation sheets don't, however, include units, nor how to rearrange those equations. Both of those still need to be practised. Below that is the periodic table. The periodic table is a data sheet that is given to students in all chemistry exams. So they have 2 chemistry exams, paper 1 and paper 2, and that is provided. So students do not need to memorise symbols or the periodic table. And there is a key to identify what the numbers mean on the periodic table also. What is not on there, however, is any divide between metals and non-metals. So students will need to learn that. So those are your basic resources. Now, students will sit 6 exams in total in science. They will have 3 paper 1 papers, 1 in biology, 1 in chemistry, 1 in physics. Those are typically taken before May half term. And they will have 3 paper 2 exams, again, 1 in biology, 1 in chemistry, 1 in physics, and they're generally sat after May half term. So it is very useful to know exactly what is on each paper. Now, while students have exercise books that state this, may well have purchased a revision guide, it might be that you and your child would prefer a checklist. So are they absolutely sure exactly what they need to revise, and how confident are they in those topics? So for each paper, you will see a checklist, and that has a RAG rating on the side. If you open those up, you can then print them off or use them as a PDF to identify areas of priority for revision or to identify what has already been covered. Once students are clear on what they need to revise, and have identified areas they need to develop, although they should be clear on those from their lessons, but if not, it's a backup resource. They then really need to practice some exam papers. So the next tab along identifies past papers they can use. Now, it's important here to notice that science is a tiered exam, which means we have a foundation and a higher tier entry. That means if your child is likely to get up to grade 5, they'll sit foundation paper. Those students who are likely to get above a grade 5 will sit higher tier. Please note all 6 exams must be sat at the same tier. Your student's teacher will advise them on which tier they are sitting. Now, when we use the past papers, whilst you can access them all here, it's important that your student does this as an open book activity initially. They have a go at the papers. They don't have to do it in time conditions initially, but you're looking at doing between 3 to 5 papers before the exams start. It's very, very important that your student marks these papers. After marking the papers, the vast majority of answers they haven't quite got right, they will be able to identify and understand the answers. They should be able to tweak their responses to know the exact wording that is required. If they are unsure about if the answer is right or wrong, or if they don't understand why an answer is wrong after marking it, these are the things that they should bring to their teacher. This will allow their teacher to be very, very, very efficient in their support and should allow the student to progress incredibly quickly. If, however, After doing the checklists, students identify a big gap in their learning or an area they really want to focus on. There are several ways in which this can support themselves. So if I move along, there are a whole range of resources here of which students will not use all of them. There is no expectation to use all of these at all. There are a range here to support students with any gaps in knowledge that they wish to improve. So it might be that they just want to read some notes to improve their own notes, in which case this particular column will help them. It might be they prefer to watch revision videos, in which case this will help. Please note it's important you pick the correct playlist. It might be that they like a website called Save My Exams or BBC Bitesize, in which case they can use these resources. Again, students will generally use one or the other of these. It might be upon finishing the checklist that students find required practicals tend to be their area of need. If this is the case, there are dedicated list of resources here just on required practicals. Required practicals are very likely to come up in exams and should be prioritised to revise. If your student's a little overwhelmed or has lost a knowledge organiser, these are all the knowledge organisers that have been provided for them already throughout the last academic 2 years, and they're a summary of what's on each unit, and it allows them to get to the key points very quickly and succinctly. So this is sometimes a good starting point if students are feeling a little overwhelmed. And then there's some general optional things. The rest of these, generally, students might not need, but there might be options that they would choose to have a go if they want to. So if they just want to just quickly test the knowledge, there's some flashcard options here. Or they can do some cover and check retrieval questions. This is where the questions on the left-hand side and the answers on the right-hand side. So again, they might choose to test each other, or you might choose to use these to test your child. On this particular drop-down menu, these are the two programs that your school have used to set homework over the last year or so. So again, your students might find the artificial intelligence that's embedded within these programs useful and may choose to continue to use them. On the right-hand side, if your child has identified a practical that I'm not too sure about, I'd like to have another go at it. Usually that's not feasible at home. However, they have got the option to repeat that practical as a simulation using either of these two activities. Then we have one more area. I'm just going to go back over to the left now. If your child is at that 4-5 boundary, and we know a lot of children really want to get their grade 4 or 5, obviously it's several much higher than that as well. But if they really want to get that 4 or 5 and they're just not quite making it at the moment, they keep persistently just missing the mark, there are some dedicated videos that we've made in-house called Smasher videos, and you can access those videos here. Those videos are designed based on the required practicals, the key knowledge required for those required practicals, and the math skills linked to those required practicals. They then demonstrate and role play a range of questions that are typically asked in that particular practical and how to answer them. So these videos can be accessed here. To be clear, students sitting both foundation and higher paper can access these videos. That's absolutely fine. However, they're predominantly guided by the exam questions that are within them at grades 4 and 5. Now, this is the resource for paper 1. We have a complementary page on paper 2, as you can see here. It's exactly the same layout except for paper 2. I hope this has been useful. Please do keep guiding your child to use these resources. Again, if I could remind you to prioritise they're equipped for their exam and attend them all. They use a checklist to make sure they know exactly what's on which paper and have they learnt it. And the main priority is using those practice past papers, and they're looking at 4 to 5 papers before they hit their exam. So starting now will ensure they've got plenty of time to do that. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope this video has been helpful.